Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant as the massive ship came out of hyperspace. The journey from Earth had taken 3 long years, and now they were finally here at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Jake looked out at the stars that seemed so different from the ones he knew back home. This was it. This was the moment that would change everything for humanity. The Defiant was not just any ship. It was 2 kilometers of pure human engineering. Steel plates covered every surface, and weapons lined the hull like teeth on a predator. The ship had been built for one purpose: to carry humanity to the stars and protect them when they got there. Earth's leaders knew that space was dangerous, and they were not taking any chances. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her station watching the sensor readings. Numbers and data flowed across her screen faster than she could read them. Something was wrong, though. The signals they were picking up did not sound like welcome messages. They sounded scared. "Captain Morrison, sir," Amy said as she turned to face him. "We are getting hundreds of messages from all over this system. They do not sound happy to see us." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The translation computer was working hard to make sense of the alien languages, but some words were coming through. Words like run and escape and danger kept appearing over and over again. Commander Ryan Brooks was watching his own set of screens from the weapons station. His job was to keep track of any threats to the ship. What he saw made him shake his head in confusion. "Sir, there are ships all over this system, but they are not coming toward us. They are running away. All of them are moving at maximum speed, away from our position." Jake had trained his whole life for this moment. He had read every book about first contact that Earth scientists had written. He had practiced different scenarios in the simulator until he could handle them in his sleep. But none of those books or training sessions had prepared him for aliens who were afraid of him. The Defiant moved deeper into the system, and more ships appeared on their sensors. There were dozens of them, and they were all different shapes and sizes. Some looked like long tubes with engines on the back. Others were round like balls with wings. A few looked like they were made of crystal or glass, but they all had one thing in common. They were all running away as fast as they could. "Try sending them a message," Jake told Amy. "Use all the languages in our computer. Tell them we come in peace." Amy typed commands into her station, and the ship's powerful transmitters sent messages in over 200 different languages. They used radio waves and laser beams, and even tried flashing lights in mathematical patterns. But no one answered back. The alien ships just kept running. Chief Engineer Danny Ross came up to the bridge from the engine room. His uniform was dirty from working on the ship's systems, but his face was excited. "Captain, the engines are running perfectly. We could chase those ships if you want. The Defiant is faster than anything I am seeing out there." But Jake did not want to chase anyone. He wanted to talk. He wanted to learn about these aliens and their culture. He wanted to trade knowledge and maybe even become friends. That was why Earth had sent them here. That was the whole point of the mission. "No, Danny, we will not chase them. We will wait and see if they want to talk to us." Hours passed, and still no one tried to communicate with the Defiant. The alien ships kept running until they were just dots on the edge of the sensor screen. Soon the only thing left in the system was a large space station that looked like it was made of white metal and glass. Jake stared at the station through the main view screen. It was beautiful in a way that human buildings never were. It had curves and flowing lines that made it look more like art than architecture. But even from this distance, he could see that ships were leaving the station too. Whatever was happening, the aliens did not want to stay around to meet the humans. Lieutenant Colonel Beth Turner came onto the bridge wearing her military uniform. She was in charge of the soldiers on the ship, and her job was to protect the crew if things went bad. "Captain, my people are ready for anything. But I have to ask, what exactly are we dealing with here? Why is everyone so afraid of us?" Jake looked around at his crew. These were good people. They had families back on Earth and dreams of exploring the galaxy. They were not monsters or invaders. They were explorers, just like the humans who had sailed across Earth's oceans hundreds of years ago. I do not know, Beth, but we are going to find out. Set course for that station, nice and slow. Maybe if we do not act threatening, they will realize we are not here to hurt anyone. The Defiant turned toward the alien station and began to move forward. But even as they approached, more ships launched from the station and fled into deep space. Whatever the aliens thought about humans, it was not good. Admiral Lisa Grant watched the emergency meeting room fill with panic. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around the curved table, and they were all talking at once. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the human ship, and everyone kept staring at it like it was some kind of monster. The ship was unlike anything in their databases. Where Federation vessels were smooth and curved, this human ship was all angles and sharp edges. Where their ships had viewing windows and observation decks, this ship had armor plates and weapon ports. It looked like it had been designed by someone who expected to fight a war. "How many ships do they have?" asked Commander Tony Miller. He was in charge of defending the station, and his voice shook when he spoke. "Our scouts report just one ship," Lisa answered. "But look at it. Look at the size of those weapons. Look at how thick that armor is. This one ship could probably destroy our entire fleet." Dr. Helen Foster stood up from her seat at the table. She was the Federation's expert on dangerous species, and she had been studying Earth for many years. What she had learned kept her awake at night. "You do not understand," Helen said as she activated her own holographic display. "I have been watching their radio transmissions for decades. These humans are not like us. They are predators." The display showed images from Earth's television and movies. Explosions and battles and soldiers marching filled the air above the table. The alien representatives watched in horror as humans fought each other with weapons that could level cities. "This is their entertainment," Helen continued. "They make stories about war and violence for fun. They teach their children to fight before they can even walk properly. Their entire society is built around conflict." Commander Miller pulled up files on his personal tablet. "What about their history? Maybe they have changed since these old broadcasts." Helen shook her head sadly. "Their history is worse. In just the last 100 years, they have fought 2 global wars that killed millions of their own people. They created weapons that can destroy their entire planet, and they pointed them at each other for decades. They have turned their home world into an armed fortress." The room fell silent as the representatives absorbed this information. The Federation had been peaceful for thousands of years. Most species had evolved beyond violence long before they reached the stars. The idea of a warlike species achieving space travel was terrifying. Ambassador Zethkar of the Quillan Republic raised one of his 4 arms. "Perhaps we can reason with them. Maybe they want to learn our peaceful ways." But Helen was already shaking her head. "Look at their ship again. Does that look like the ship of a species that wants to learn about peace? They came here ready for war." Admiral Grant studied the tactical data streaming in from their long-range sensors. The human ship was massive, but it moved through space with the grace of a predator. Its engines were more powerful than anything the Federation had ever built. Its sensors were so advanced they could probably see every ship in the system. "What do we know about their intentions?" asked Dr. Foster. "They have been trying to communicate," Tony reported. "But their messages are in languages we do not understand. Our computers are working on translation, but it will take time." Lisa stood up and walked to the main display. The human ship was getting closer to the station, and she could see more details now. Gun turrets that could swivel to track targets. Missile launchers built into the hull. Shield generators that crackled with energy. This was a ship built by a species that expected enemies around every corner. "Send word to all Federation worlds," Lisa ordered. "Tell them that a potentially hostile species has entered our space. Tell them to prepare their defenses and be ready to evacuate if necessary." Commander Miller looked confused. "Admiral, should we not try talking to them first? Maybe they really do come in peace." Helen Foster pulled up another display showing human military doctrine. Their war manuals talk about something called total war, where they destroy everything that belongs to their enemies. They have strategies for fighting in space and on planets and even underwater. They have planned for every possible type of battle. The alien representatives began talking among themselves in their various languages. Fear was spreading through the room like a disease. These species had lived in peace for so long that they had almost forgotten what war looked like. "What about our fleet?" asked Ambassador Zethkar. "Can we not defend ourselves?" Admiral Grant laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Our fleet was designed for exploration and rescue missions. Our weapons are meant for clearing space debris and mining asteroids. Against a ship like that, we would be like children throwing rocks at a tank." Tony pulled up the current positions of all Federation ships in the sector. "We have about 300 vessels within range. Most of them are science ships and cargo haulers, but we could convert some of them for combat." "Do it," Lisa ordered. "Send the word out. Every ship that can mount a weapon should head for this system. We may not be able to win, but we can at least show them that we will not go down without a fight." As the meeting broke up and representatives hurried back to their ships, Dr. Foster remained behind with Admiral Grant. The two women stared at the display showing the approaching human vessel. "Do you think we have a chance?" Helen asked quietly. Lisa was quiet for a long moment before answering. "I have seen the records of their wars. I have watched their training videos and studied their weapons. These humans have spent thousands of years learning how to kill each other efficiently. We have spent thousands of years learning how to explore the galaxy peacefully." She paused and touched the display with one finger. "No, Helen, I do not think we have a chance. But maybe we can slow them down long enough for our people to escape." The warning went out across the galaxy that day. From world to world and system to system, the message spread. Humanity had come to the stars, and they had brought their warships with them. The age of peace was over. Captain Jake Morrison tried every communication frequency they had, but still no one would answer. The Defiant had been in the system for 6 hours, and the silence was becoming frustrating. Every time they sent a peaceful message, the aliens just ran away faster. "Sir, I am picking up massive fleet movements across the sector," reported Ensign Chris Parker from his position at the communications station. "It looks like they are calling in ships from everywhere." Jake studied the tactical display as red dots appeared all around them. Ships were coming from every direction, and they were coming fast. Some were big like the Defiant, but most were smaller. There had to be hundreds of them. "Are they warships?" asked Commander Ryan Brooks. Chris shook his head. "I do not think so. Sir, the energy signatures are all wrong for military vessels. These look like cargo ships and research vessels that have been fitted with weapons." Lieutenant Amy Carter was working frantically at her station trying to break through the alien communication barriers. "Captain, I keep getting fragments of their transmissions. Words like evacuation and emergency keep coming through. They are definitely scared of something." Jake walked to the center of the bridge and looked around at his crew. These people had left their families behind to come on this mission. They had volunteered to travel farther from Earth than any human had ever gone. They deserved to know what they were facing. "Listen, everyone," Jake said in a calm voice. "It looks like we have accidentally started some kind of panic. I want all departments to stand down from any aggressive postures. No active targeting scanners. No weapon systems online. We need to show these aliens that we are not here to hurt anyone." Chief Engineer Danny Ross came up from the engine room with a worried expression on his face. "Captain, I have been analyzing the alien ship designs from our sensor data. These are not military vessels. They are exploration ships and colony transports. Some of them look hundreds of years old." "What does that mean?" asked Jake. "It means they have not fought a war in a very long time, sir. Maybe never. Their ships are built for speed and efficiency, not for battle. They probably do not even know how to fight." Meanwhile, thousands of light years away on the Federation capital world, President Elena Rodriguez was holding an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The Great Assembly Hall was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, and they were all talking at once. The main holographic display showed the human ship, and every time someone looked at it, they became more frightened. Ambassador Kelthan of the Andromedan Collective stood up to address the assembly. My fellow beings, we face a crisis unlike anything in our history. These humans have built a vessel that exists only to destroy. Our analysts believe it could sterilize an entire planet in hours. President Rodriguez tried to maintain order, but the fear in the room was overwhelming. Please, we must remain calm. We do not know their intentions yet. But Dr. Foster was already presenting her research to the assembly. Images of human wars filled the air above their heads, battles and explosions and weapons of incredible destruction. The representatives watched in horror as humans fought each other with a ferocity that seemed impossible. Look at their history, Helen said as the images changed. They have been fighting wars for their entire existence. Even now, on their homeworld, they have weapons pointed at each other. They have turned warfare into a science. Ambassador Zethkar raised his hand. But surely they must want something. Resources, territory, slaves. We can negotiate? Helen shook her head. You do not understand. Humans do not fight for resources. They fight because they enjoy it. Their entire culture glorifies violence and conquest. To them, we are not potential allies. We are prey. Back in the Kepler 442 system, Captain Morrison was becoming more concerned as more alien ships arrived. The tactical display now showed over 200 vessels surrounding them at various distances. None of them were communicating, but they were definitely watching. Captain, reported Lieutenant Colonel Beth Turner from the Marine Station, my sensors are picking up weapons signatures from those ships. Nothing too dangerous, but they are definitely arming themselves. Jake nodded grimly. How many Marines do we have on board? 200, sir. All trained for combat in space and on planets. But if those ships all attack at once? I know, Beth. We would be outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Commander Brooks was studying the alien fleet formations with growing unease. Sir, they are not acting like a military force. Their formations are sloppy and they keep changing positions. It is like they are making it up as they go along. Ensign Parker suddenly looked up from his station with excitement. Captain, I am finally getting some translation data. One of their ships is broadcasting on an open frequency. Put it on the main speakers, Jake ordered. The bridge filled with an alien voice speaking in broken English. Human vessel, this is Admiral Lisa Grant of the Federation Navy. You have entered Sovereign Federation space. We ask that you leave immediately to prevent any unfortunate incidents. Jake stepped forward. Admiral Grant, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Defiant. We come in peace. We seek only diplomatic contact and mutual understanding between our peoples. There was a long pause before the alien admiral responded. Captain Morrison, we have studied your species. We know what you are capable of. Your ship is a weapon of war. Your people are conquerors. We cannot allow you to threaten our worlds. Admiral, you are mistaken, Jake replied. We are explorers, not conquerors. This ship was built to protect us in unknown space, not to attack others. But even as he spoke, Jake could see that his words were not having any effect. More alien. Ships were arriving every hour, and they were taking up attack positions around the Defiant. The situation was spiraling out of control, and he did not know how to stop it. Sir, Amy said quietly, I am intercepting communications between their ships. They are planning something big. Words like final assault and overwhelming force keep coming through. Jake realized that they were facing a tragic misunderstanding that could lead to war. The aliens saw humans as monsters, and nothing he could say would change their minds. But he also knew that if shooting started, the Defiant's superior weapons and armor would give them a huge advantage. The aliens would suffer terrible losses. All hands. This is the captain. Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare for possible combat, but remember, these aliens are not our enemies. They are scared and confused. If we have to fight, we fight to disable, not to destroy. We are not here to start a war." Admiral Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of her flagship New Dawn as the Federation fleet moved into position around the human vessel. 300 ships of various sizes and designs spread out in a massive formation that surrounded the enemy on all sides. She had never commanded so many vessels at once, and the responsibility weighed heavily on her shoulders. "All ships report ready for battle," announced her tactical officer, Commander Vale. "Though I must say, Admiral, most of these crews have never been in combat before. They are scientists and explorers, not soldiers." Lisa nodded as she studied the tactical display. The human ships sat in the center of their formation like a predator surrounded by prey. Even outnumbered 300 to 1, it somehow still looked dangerous. The angular design and heavy armor made it clear that this vessel had been built for war. "Remember, everyone," Lisa broadcast to the fleet. "We are not here to destroy them if we can avoid it. Show them our strength, and maybe they will leave peacefully." Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet complete their encirclement with a mixture of admiration and concern. The ships moved with precision that spoke of excellent coordination and training. But as his crew analyzed the vessels, it became clear that these were not warships. "Captain," reported Chief Engineer Danny Ross, "I am seeing cargo haulers, research vessels, even what looks like passenger liners. They have welded weapons onto civilian ships." Lieutenant Amy Carter was monitoring the communications between alien vessels. "Sir, they are using unencrypted channels. I can hear their conversations. They are terrified. Some of the ship captains are asking if they can go home." Commander Ryan Brooks studied the weapons signatures coming from the Federation fleet. "Their armaments are impressive but not designed for ship-to-ship combat. Most of these weapons are meant for mining operations or construction work." Jake felt a deep sadness as he realized what was happening. These aliens had taken their peaceful exploration ships and tried to turn them into instruments of war. They were so afraid of humanity that they had sent families and scientists to fight a battle they could never win. "Open a channel to Admiral Grant," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the alien flagship. Admiral Grant appeared as a tall humanoid with blue skin and 4 arms. Her expression was determined, but Jake could see fear in her large, dark eyes. "Admiral, please reconsider this course of action," Jake said. "Your people do not need to die today. We can find a peaceful solution to this misunderstanding." Lisa Grant looked at the human captain with surprise. She had expected a monster, but saw instead a tired-looking man who seemed genuinely concerned for her crew. But she could not forget everything they had learned about humanity. "Captain Morrison, your words may be peaceful, but your ship tells a different story. We cannot allow a predator species to threaten our worlds." Behind her, Dr. Foster stepped into view. "Captain, we have studied your people for decades. We know about your wars and your weapons. We know that you have spent centuries learning how to kill each other. We cannot trust you." Jake felt frustration building in his chest. "Dr. Foster, you have studied our history, but you do not understand our present. Yes, humans have fought wars. Yes, we have made mistakes, but we have also learned from them. We came here seeking friendship, not conquest." The conversation was interrupted by an alarm on the Federation flagship. Commander Vale looked up from his station with alarm. "Admiral, one of our escort vessels is reporting a weapons malfunction. The mining laser on the freighter Dawn's Edge is charging without authorization." Lisa turned to look at her tactical display. The freighter was an old cargo ship that had been hastily converted for this mission. Its crew were asteroid miners, with no military training. "Get them on the comm. Tell them to power down that weapon immediately." but it was too late. The nervous crew of the Dawn's Edge, overwhelmed by fear and propaganda about human brutality, fired their mining laser. The beam lanced across space and struck the Defiant's outer hull. On the Defiant's bridge, warning lights immediately began flashing. "Incoming fire," reported Commander Brooks. "Minor damage to Section 7. Hull integrity holding." Jake's response was immediate and instinctive. "All hands, we are under attack. Defensive systems online. Rules of engagement are weapons and engines only. Do not target life support or crew areas." The Defiant's point defense systems activated with frightening efficiency. Automated turrets swiveled to track incoming fire, while targeting computers calculated firing solutions with inhuman speed. The ship's defensive technology had been designed to intercept missiles traveling at significant fractions of light speed. Lieutenant Sam Johnson coordinated the defensive arrays from his position at the weapons station. "Sir, their weapons are not designed for combat. Low-yield energy beams with slow recharge rates. Our shields can handle this indefinitely." The Federation fleet opened fire with everything they had. Hundreds of mining lasers, construction beams, and improvised weapons lit up space around the Defiant. But the human ship's shields absorbed the bombardment with ease, while its targeting computers identified and tracked every enemy vessel. Commander Brooks watched in amazement as their automated systems outmaneuvered ships that should have been vastly superior in numbers. "Captain, their tactics are completely predictable. They are using formation flying patterns that we studied in basic military academy. No innovation, no adaptation to actual combat conditions." The Defiant's return. Fire was precise and devastating. Each shot was carefully calculated to disable rather than destroy. Weapons arrays vanished in brief explosions. Engine sections went dark as power systems failed. The human ship moved through the Federation formation like a surgeon's scalpel. Cutting away the ability to fight without killing, Admiral Grant watched in horror as her fleet was systematically dismantled. "How are they doing this? We outnumber them 300 to 1. Dr. Foster stared at the tactical display with growing understanding. "They are not just fighting us, they are managing us. Look at their targeting patterns. They are disabling our weapons and engines but leaving life support intact. They could have destroyed us all in the first minute of this battle," Commander Vale reported from his station. "Admiral, we have lost 40% of our fleet's offensive capability. Hull breaches are minimal, and casualty reports are surprisingly low. It is like they are trying not to kill us." The battle continued for 2 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Federation's makeshift fleet found themselves facing an opponent that seemed to anticipate their every move. The Defiant's tactical computers, programmed with centuries of human warfare doctrine, treated the engagement like a complex problem with only one solution. When Admiral Grant finally gave the order to retreat, half of her fleet could no longer fight, and the other half was running low on power. The human ship had barely been scratched. "All ships, withdraw to minimum safe distance," Lisa ordered. "Medical vessels move in to assist damaged ships." As the Federation fleet limped away from the battlefield, Jake Morrison made a decision that would define the next phase of contact between their species. Instead of pursuing the retreating aliens, he ordered his crew to assist the disabled vessels. "All departments, prepare rescue operations," Jake announced. "Any Federation ship that needs help will receive it. We are not conquerors. We are explorers, and today we start exploring what it means to be neighbors." The first human shuttle to dock with a Federation vessel carried Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kate Sullivan and a team of medics. The alien ship they boarded was called the Scientific Hope, and it had been badly damaged in the fighting. Its crew of 23 were researchers from the University of New Harmony who had volunteered for what they thought was a military mission. Dr. Sullivan walked through the corridors of the alien ship with wonder and growing sadness. The walls were covered with artwork and scientific displays. Family photos showed alien children and loved ones back home. This was not a warship filled with soldiers. This was a research vessel filled with people who had families and dreams. "Captain, Morrison, she called over her communicator. You need to see this. These are not military personnel. The crew manifest shows botanists, archaeologists, and graduate students. The captain is a professor of xenobiology who has never been in combat before. Jake Morrison felt the weight of realization hit him like a physical blow. The Federation had not sent their military to stop an invasion because they did not have a military to speak of. They had sent everyone they could find, teachers, scientists, and civilians, because they were too terrified to do anything else. On the bridge of the Defiant, Commander Ryan Brooks was analyzing the wreckage of the battle. Sir, I have been studying the tactical data from the engagement. These ships are centuries old. Some of them might be over 1,000 years old. They have been converted from exploration vessels and cargo haulers into makeshift warships. Lieutenant Amy Carter looked up from her communications station. Captain, I am receiving distress calls from all over the Federation fleet. They have wounded who need medical attention and several ships are losing life support. Jake made the decision without hesitation. Launch all shuttles, medical teams to every ship that needs help, engineering teams to assist with repairs, and I want our best diplomats on those shuttles too. It is time we started talking to these people properly. The sight of human shuttles approaching disabled Federation ships caused panic among the alien crews. Many had heard stories about human cruelty and expected the worst. But when the shuttle doors opened, they found doctors carrying medical supplies and engineers with repair equipment. Dr. Foster watched from the bridge of Admiral Grant's flagship as human medics worked alongside alien doctors to save lives. The humans moved with efficiency and compassion that surprised her. These were supposed to be monsters who glorified violence, but they were risking their own lives to help their former enemies. Admiral, Dr. Foster said quietly, I think we may have made a terrible mistake. Admiral Lisa Grant was studying reports from across her fleet. Human medical teams had saved dozens of lives, and human engineers had prevented 3 ships from suffering catastrophic life support failures. The people she had been told were predators were acting like rescuers. Get me Captain Morrison, she ordered. The communication screen showed Jake Morrison standing in what appeared to be a medical bay on the Defiant. Behind him, alien wounded were being treated by human doctors, while Federation medics learned human techniques. Captain, I owe you an explanation, Admiral Grant began. We were told that your species was dangerous, that you came here to conquer and destroy. But your actions today suggest otherwise. Jake looked tired, but his voice was steady. Admiral, our species has made many mistakes in our history. We have fought wars and caused great suffering, but we have also learned from those mistakes. We came to the stars not to repeat our past, but to build a better future. Dr. Foster stepped into view on the communication screen. Captain Morrison, I have spent years studying your people. Your history is filled with violence and conquest. How can we trust that you have truly changed? Jake was quiet for a moment before answering. Dr. Foster, you have studied our wars, but have you studied our peace? Yes, we fought 2 world wars that killed millions. But after those wars, we built institutions to prevent them from happening again. Yes, we created weapons that could destroy our planet, but we also created treaties to control them. He gestured to the medical bay behind him where humans and aliens worked together. This is who we are now. We came here with weapons because space is dangerous and unknown, but when faced with a choice between conquest and compassion, we chose compassion. Commander Brooks appeared on the screen next to Jake. Dr. Foster, our military doctrine includes something called proportional response. We could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first few minutes of the battle. Instead, we targeted only weapons and engines. We could have pursued your retreating ships. Instead, we came to help. The revelation was spreading throughout the Federation fleet. Human rescue teams were finding families on ships that were supposed to be military vessels. They found children who had been evacuated from colonies, elderly scientists who had volunteered to fight despite having no training, and young students who had signed up because they wanted to protect their homes. Lieutenant. Colonel Beth Turner led a team of human Marines to the damaged Federation vessel Peaceful Explorer. What she found changed her understanding of the entire situation. The ship's armory contained mining equipment and scientific instruments that had been hastily converted into weapons. The crew were wearing civilian clothes with military insignia. "Pinned on crooked!" "Captain," she reported back to the Defiant, "the Federation does not have professional soldiers. These people are amateurs who have been thrown into a situation they do not understand. Their weapons are improvised, and their tactics are from textbooks that are probably centuries old." Jake realized that the galaxy's fear of humanity was not based on hatred or xenophobia. It was the instinctive terror of prey animals encountering their first predator. These peaceful species had lived without war for so long that they had forgotten what warriors looked like. "Dr. Foster," Jake said during their continued conversation, "your people have achieved something remarkable. You have built a civilization based on peace and cooperation. But that same achievement has left you vulnerable to species like mine who remember what conflict looks like." Admiral Grant looked at the tactical display showing human shuttles moving between damaged Federation ships. "Captain Morrison, what do you want from us? What are your terms for ending this conflict?" Jake smiled for the first time since the battle began. "Admiral, I do not want anything from you except the chance to prove that predators can also be protectors. Your people have forgotten how to fight, and that is a beautiful thing. But the galaxy is a dangerous place, and you may need someone who remembers." Dr. Foster was studying the medical reports coming in from across the fleet. Human doctors had saved lives that Federation medicine could not have helped. Human engineers had solved problems in minutes that would have taken her people hours. The technological gap was not just in weapons, it was in everything. "Captain," she said slowly, "if your people truly want peace, then perhaps we can learn from each other. We can teach you about cooperation and exploration. You can teach us about survival." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from the Federation capital. President Rodriguez appeared on the communication screen with news that would change everything. "Admiral Grant, we have received reports of an unknown threat approaching our outer colonies. Something is destroying entire star systems, and we do not know what it is. The Galactic Council is requesting immediate assistance from any available military forces." Jake Morrison looked at Admiral Grant and saw the fear in her eyes. The Federation faced a threat they could not handle, and they had just discovered that their new neighbors were the most effective warriors in the galaxy. "Admiral," Jake said quietly, "it sounds like you might need our help after all." 3 months after the battle at Kepler 442, the UES Defiant had become something nobody expected. What started as humanity's first warship to the stars had transformed into the galaxy's first embassy. Captain Jake Morrison stood in what used to be the ship's main cargo bay and watched humans and aliens working together on projects that would have been impossible just weeks earlier. Dr. Kate Sullivan worked alongside Federation medical experts to develop new treatments that combined human surgical techniques with alien biotechnology. The results were revolutionary. Diseases that had plagued both species for centuries were being cured with methods that neither could have discovered alone. "Captain," Dr. Sullivan reported during their daily briefing, "the medical exchange program is exceeding all expectations. We have learned more about alien physiology in 3 months than we learned about human medicine in 3 decades. And they are fascinated by our understanding of trauma surgery and emergency medicine." Lieutenant Amy Carter had become the ship's unofficial cultural liaison. She spent her days working with Federation linguists to improve the translation systems, and her nights learning alien languages. The barriers that had seemed impossible to cross were falling one by one. "Sir, we now have working translations for over 40 Federation languages," Amy reported. "But more importantly, we are starting to understand their cultural concepts. They have words for types of peace that we do not even have concepts for." Chief Engineer Danny Ross was perhaps the busiest person on the ship. Federation engineers wanted to understand human technology, while human engineers were amazed by alien innovations. The collaboration was producing advances that neither side could have achieved alone. "Captain, you should see what we are working on," Danny said with excitement in his voice. "The Federation has energy systems that are incredibly efficient. Combined with our defensive technology, we could build ships that are both powerful and peaceful. But the most important changes were happening in the minds of both species. Admiral Lisa Grant had moved her command post to the Defiant and worked closely with Captain Morrison to address the threat that had brought them together. The unknown enemy that was destroying Federation colonies had united former adversaries into allies. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Grant said during their morning strategy meeting, "I owe you an apology. We were so afraid of what you might do that we never considered what you might choose to do." Dr. Foster had become one of the strongest advocates for human Federation cooperation. Her studies of human culture had evolved from fear-based research into genuine anthropological curiosity. She was learning that humans were far more complex than their violent history suggested. "Jake," she said, using his first name for the first time, "I have been studying your literature and philosophy. Your species has spent as much effort thinking about peace as you have thinking about war. We only saw half of who you are. The threat they faced together was unlike anything either species had encountered. Reports from the outer colonies described ships that seemed to be made of living metal and weapons that could tear apart the fabric of space itself. The enemy had no interest in communication or negotiation. They simply destroyed everything in their path. Commander Ryan Brooks had been analyzing the enemy's attack patterns, and the data was disturbing. "Captain, these attackers are not just destroying colonies. They are harvesting something from each system before they move on. Energy signatures suggest they are collecting stellar material and rare elements." Lieutenant Colonel Beth Turner was working with Federation security forces to develop joint defense strategies. The combination of human tactical doctrine and Federation technology was producing innovative solutions to the alien threat. "Sir, we have identified several defensive positions where combined forces could make a stand," Beth reported. "Federation shields are incredibly strong and human weapons are incredibly precise. Together, we might actually have a chance." The partnership between humans and the Federation was changing both species in unexpected ways. Human aggression was being tempered by alien wisdom, while Federation passivity was being strengthened by human resolve. The combination was creating something entirely new. President Elena Rodriguez arrived on the Defiant 6 months after first contact to witness the transformation personally. She found a ship that had become a symbol of cooperation rather than conquest. The bridge was staffed by both humans and aliens working together seamlessly. "Captain Morrison," President Rodriguez said as she toured the ship, "when we sent you to the stars, we hoped you would make contact with alien civilizations. We never imagined you would help create a new type of civilization entirely. The joint Human Federation fleet that assembled to face the unknown threat was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human warships provided the backbone of offensive capability, while Federation vessels offered advanced sensors and communication systems. The crews were integrated with humans and aliens, serving together on every ship." Dr. Foster stood with Captain Morrison on the bridge of the Defiant as the combined fleet prepared to face their common enemy. "Jake, 6 months ago I thought your species would destroy us. Now I believe you might be the only thing that can save us." Jake looked out at the fleet they had assembled. Ships from dozens of worlds flying in formation with vessels from Earth. The sight filled him with pride and hope for the future. "Helen, 6 months ago I thought we were alone in the universe. Now I know we have neighbors worth protecting." The battle against the unknown enemy would be fierce and costly. But as the combined fleet jumped to hyperspace, both species knew they faced the future together. The galaxy had cried out in fear when Earth's battleship arrived. But in time, threatened worlds would cry out for help instead, knowing that humanity would answer the call. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun not with conquest, but with cooperation. Captain Morrison's final log entry captured the moment perfectly. Today we learned that the greatest victory is not defeating your enemies, but discovering that you never had to be enemies at all. The Defiant remained in Federation space as humanity's first embassy to the stars. When more human ships arrived in the following years, they found not a conquered territory, but a thriving partnership between species. Earth's warriors had become the galaxy's guardians, and the universe was safer for it. The story of first contact between humanity and the Federation became legend throughout both civilizations. It was taught in schools and remembered in songs as the moment when two very different species chose cooperation over conflict. The galaxy had been forever changed by the arrival of one human warship and the captain who chose peace over war.